Hello everyone, this is Lich Hunter, and this tutorial is an overview of the Pip system. We're going to talk about what it is and go into some detail on how it works. For the last, a little background on what we're doing and trying to accomplish with the Pip system is, for the last 20 years in my home game, I have used a modified rule system which picked up aspects of all the different role-playing games I've played over the years. The world's oldest RPG, RQ, Star Wars role-playing game, Marvel Superheroes, Champions, Palladium, GURPS, you name it. And there were aspects of all those systems that I really liked, and I tried to fuse them together into kind of the ultimate role-playing game system for me. And I now want to share that with everybody, and we're calling it the Pip system, and we're piggybacking off the Pathfinder rules, the core rules, and so we've made it Pathfinder role-playing game compatible. And we also owe a lot, really special shout out to RQ and to then the Skyrim computer game, which gave us the vision of how this might be able to be worked. So without further ado, we'll go into the presentation. So an overview of the presentation we're about to do is we're going to go into the relationship of Pip system to the Pathfinder Core Rules. We're going to give a little bit of the virtues of why use the Pip Leveling system. We're going to talk about how you advance your hit points and your spell points through the rules. This is all new. We're going to talk about leveling and what levels are. We don't have character classes emphasized, but we are going to talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. And how to adapt to the Pip system. We're going to do the charts and algorithms of some of the hit point and spell point advancements, as well as some of the magic rules and how you advance through magic. We're going to talk about magic a little bit and through the magic rules. We're going to talk about some special magic features. Well, feats is something that most people already know about, but we're also going to talk about runes and otheries and character classes and how they could be adapted, as mentioned before. And we'll also talk about character development. We think that's one of the strengths of the Pip system. And then we're going to talk about game balance and all the effects of how we have kind of fused this together and what is that going to do to game balance. One thing that the individual systems and playing those individual systems individually is they've done a lot of work on game balance. And so you can throw things off kilter a little bit, and at some level we don't mind that with our Pip system. Okay, the relationship of Pip system to the core Pathfinder rules is if you look down, Pips is basically a leveling system. You're going to do point adjustments. We're going to have a new way of doing hit points, a new way of doing increasing your spell points, how many spells you can cast, how you're going to do your saving throw modifiers. Your skill advancement is going to be different using Pips than it would be with using pure Pathfinder. Your magic acquisition will be different. Your level acquisition will be different, and your feat acquisitions will be different, and then character classes are obviously going to be highly affected by this, to the point where you don't even have to have a character class, but if you want to adapt a character straight over into the Pip system, you can, and we are going to be working on how the best way to do that through time. The Pip system is going to be in perpetual beta, and we're going to be always looking to improve it and update it here on the World of Atlas so that it gets better and better. Now, what Pathfinder covers is the combat mechanics, your flanking, your movement, your with the Adventure Workbook, we're not doing much with attacks of opportunity, but you could still use those rules if you're using the Pip system on a tabletop. There's save and AC mechanics are all going to be the same. We're going to add to the spell lists, but the spell lists as they exist in Pathfinder are going to be all usable and compatible. All the feat choices that currently exist in Pathfinder are going to be available and compatible. The ability modifiers and how those work all is good. Now, as detailed in the player character development tutorial, in the player creation, on the World of Atlas, we have more ability points in the initial beginning for allocation, and the NPCs will have that. So, but that is a slight difference from the Pathfinder when it comes to abilities, but you could just use Pathfinder abilities, and there's no reason why it wouldn't. Everything would just work fine with that modification. And skill modifiers, they're all the same. Perception is a wisdom skill. Knowledge-based skills are intelligence skills. Combat skills are often strength skills and stuff like that. Then we're going to monster stats. When you're fighting a monster and the description of the monsters, that's going to be holding fairly close to the bestiaries produced by Pathfinder. NPC creation can just be done as simply as saying I want this guy to be a 7th level fighter or 7th level ranger or 2nd level, 2 levels of fighter and 5 levels of inquisitor or something like that. And then also adventure content. We want the Pip system to actually work with Pathfinder adventure paths and other Pathfinder compatible adventures that are out there. So as you can tell, we basically, Pips are for leveling and advancement, and Pathfinder is for mechanics and many other things. Why use the Pip system is why I just stay with Pathfinder Core Rules. Well, I don't like experience points, and I never have. And for someone to all of a sudden become better at their hiding and sneaking because they overcome a adventure, either a combat or some kind of role-playing experience. Well, now I'm better at these skills that I never used. That always bothered me. And RQ had that same kind of feature or Call of Cthulhu, where you got better at what you did. And I really always liked that. And then I saw that again in Skyrim, the computer game for Xbox and other platforms, where you improved your character based off what you did. If you snuck around a lot, then you got a lot of sneak levels. Your sneaking improved, and that's just works for me, and that's how I like to play. Now we're going to talk about the cons first. Is you due to the fact that you have to do everything, there's some slow advancement, and very much so at higher levels that you can get. It can be kind of slow to get things done if you have to advance them. And we're working on how to train. So for off adventure time, if you wanted to work on these skills that you don't really use during adventures very often, like appraise or knowledge planes or stuff like that, we want to figure out a good system for how to enable training of Pips. And then there's additional bookkeeping. And with leveling, you kind of know exactly what you need to do and all the things, and that happens once every level. With the Pip system, you're kind of constantly adjusting. Your sneak's getting better even before you advance another level, or your knowledge of planes is getting better before you advance that level. So you have to keep up with that, and so that's advanced bookkeeping. And one of the reasons we've created Adventure Workbook with its companion adventure board is to help with that bookkeeping. So that is one of the virtues of having the adventure workbook. So the pros for it really are realism. It feels more real to me when you're playing and you're having the skills advance through use as opposed to based off some kind of leveling rule due to character class. Then there is flexibility. That is really nice with the Pip system. Naturally, there's going to be parameters on any character class, and you can just ignore those parameters when you're using the Pip system and do whatever you want, really. Character depth seems to come out better. people can label your character fairly easily if you're using character classes. Oh yeah, you're a 4th level ranger. I know what that is. Oh, you're a 4th level urban ranger. Yeah, I know what that is. But the character depth is, when you're doing a PIP system, is, well, they need to kind of adventure with you to see what you're able to do more. And I've always liked that aspect, that you don't have a label on you called a character class in your level. Character individuality kind of falls in the same thing of the depth, is you really kind of get to know who your character is as you adventure with it, because you're like, well, yeah, he does this, he doesn't really do that, and it affects how my skills and everything else work. Then through the PIP system, you also have increased power at low levels. You when you have low level skills, they're going to be going up fairly quickly, and you're going to be getting hit points and spell points associated with that increase. That really helps in the initial levels get you out of the easy death zone and into kind of a reasonably playable character very quickly. Then it's also adventure workbook compatible, as we mentioned earlier. That's one of the real virtues to this, is that we've created a tool for everybody to play and use the PIP system that will do all the record keeping for you. And we think that tool is very fun to use. And it's called Adventure Workbook, and available at World of Atlas for free. So point advancement. Well, there's 3 types of points that we see advancing. Those are hit points, and that algorithm is your total skill points plus your con bonus times your level plus your toughness. And so if you have 10 skill points that you've scattered around your character, all at first level skills, well, then you have 10 hit points. And if you go up in your stealth and in your knowledge planes to 2 in each one of those, well, now you have 12 hit points, because you've gone +1 in stealth and +1 in knowledge planes. It kind of emphasizes a Renaissance man or woman approach to the world, that the more you know makes you actually tougher to kill. I actually believe that's kind of true. And the more broader skills that you have, the more well-rounded you are, makes you essentially tougher. And then spell points goes up through earned spell points, which means you have to cast a certain number of first level spells to get a spell point. And then you cast a certain number of second level spells to get a spell point. And you need to have cast at least 3 awards worth on the level below you before you go up. So basically, it's how often do you cast spells leads to the improvement of how many more spells you can actually cast. We also, I've never liked memorizing spells. I think that's way too limiting. And I've always wanted a spell point system. I know, like, the sorcerer already has that, but we've kind of just expanded that so we kind of break down the wall between those 2 character classes. But one is just a charisma-based wizard, and the wizard is basically just a intelligence-based sorcerer, and that's the way to think about it. And then saving throws is every time you do get a level, you get to allocate 2 points of saving throws to whatever you want. So you can increase fortitude and reflex by 1, or fortitude by 2, or will by 2, or whichever combination of 2 points you would like to allocate to. Much like Skyrim, and not like RuneQuest. RuneQuest had RQ had no levels. Skyrim had levels, and you would get certain perks for improvement when you reached a level. So we're going to continue with levels, and that helps, and that's going to be based off the total number of pips you have. And you can start characters by saying, well, you're a 50 pip character, which is about a first level character, or a 120 pip character, which means you're starting a second level character, or and so on, 210 at third. And so you could allocate all those pips around and get spells and skill points and hit points and the like by allocating your pips. So we are going to have that, and that because that helps a lot with the compatibility with Pathfinder Core role-playing. Well, my former amalgamation of all these rules, I did not have levels, but I saw some virtues of actually bringing back the levels into the system when I played Skyrim, and that kind of was the impetus and spark that led me down the path, actually, to the creation of the entire world of Atlas Site. So influences of levels is hit point bonuses. Just like in Pathfinder, every time you gain a level, you add your con bonus to your hit points. The spell parameters and power increase. So it's going to be based off your how many magic missiles you fire off, or how many turns your spell lasts is going to be dependent on what your level is. And so that all that magic and all that core rule stats is still going to work straight out of Pathfinder. And abilities for those choosing to slot a class, which we're going to talk about a little bit, is if you want to maintain a lot of the class features for a character. I don't want to restrict anybody from anything that they would like to do. They like being a ranger. They like being a paladin. You can still do that. And so anytime you go up, say, like a fighter getting armor training and stuff like that, you get to do that based off your level. If you've slotted a class and one of your 2 choice slots that we're going to talk about when we talk about feats, so theories, runes, and character classes. All right, pip checks. The rationale behind these is that pips should occur. You get better at something when you accomplish it, but not when it's so easy that it was easy to accomplish. So we have created a process for handling that. We also want the allocation to come for that some are naturally gifted at certain skills. Your sneaker is better when he has a high dex, and your knowledge-based character is better when he has high intelligence. And that we want that to be accounted for when we're doing our skill-based leveling. And this is a ode to the Pathfinder Confirmed Critical Rules. When playing Pathfinder Society, I noticed that this Confirmed Critical was something that was a good idea. I didn't really understand why you confirmed a critical at first. For my other critical rules, you just was based on it, but then I thought about it for a bit, and it made a lot of sense that did you really critical, or did you just get a lucky hit in because it was really hard to do? Well, we've kind of flipped that on its ear and put it that, okay, you accomplished the task, but was that task really easy to do so you didn't get any better at it, or was it hard to do? Oh, yeah, it was hard to do, so you get it better. So the actual process detailed here is a skill check is awarded when a task is accomplished, and a confirmation check is failed. We call that confirmation check the pip roll. So character is about to leap off a building for an acrobatics check and cross an alleyway to another building, and he makes it. And it was a dangerous task at a DC 15. And then we roll another roll to see if he would have made it given that confirmation roll. If he confirms it, well, it was pretty easy for him to do. And if he doesn't confirm it, it was something that he learned when he did that, and he got a pip. So skills automatically go up if you have a critical confirmation. It's always fun to crit with a 20, and we always think that when you do that so masterfully, you always improve in your ability, and this just adds fun to the game. Skill goes up too if a critical is confirmed. I think this only applies to when in combat, when you're dealing with like a weapon that it is confirmed it's critical. If you make the critical threat range, you're going to go up 1, and then if you actually confirm it, you go up 2. And I'll need to check again exactly what happens when you're doing it with a other type skill like sneak or knowledge planes, but that is something that is handled by the adventure workbook, and if you're using that, it just handles it for you. Buffs, so you get some kind of bonus to like a skill, a feat bonus of skill focus. That goes to both the initial skill check and the pip roll, or if you have some other kind of thing that's going to heighten your perception, or boots of elven kind that are going to help you sneak better, those are going to be applied to both rolls. Even though it's not an increase in your actual skill, it is an increase in the easiness of how easy the task is to do, and so it is relevant. And again, we emphasize the adventure workbook aids in the bookkeeping of this process greatly. Now we're going to talk about the advancement charts and exactly what the algorithms are for skill advancement. And right now, to have a skill level of 1, it requires pips. Otherwise, you get no bonus for it going up. And so you need 5 for it to go up to a 1. So if we're working on our one-handed weapon or our sneak or our knowledge planes, we need 5 pips for it to go up to 1. We need an additional 7 pips for it to go up to 2, so that's going to be a 12. And then we need 9 pips for it to go up to a 3, so that makes it a 21 total skill pips required. And the adventure workbook does not automatically increase your skill level based off your pips. You need to do this by hand currently. We might make improvements to that program in the future that does this for you, but right now we're leaving it in the users to do it, because a lot of people don't use the pip system and will use the adventure workbook for Pathfinder only, and we do not want to interfere with their ability to do that. So if you're using the pip system, which we encourage because we like it, it's the only way I will play pretty much anymore is with the pip system, is this is what you're following. And as you can see, it's just an additional 2 for each increasing level for how much it requires you to go up. And that will continue past skill level of 11. This is not a cap. It'll keep going on forever, into perpetuity, I guess is the word. And so this would go up to 27, 29, 31 as we kept going down, and so you can expand out the chart if you need that, if you get that high a level in any skill. And then level advancement chart kind of mimics this. You have 50 pips, and so this is kind of based off of how much would it cost to level for 10 additional skill points. And so you go with your pips and 50, 120, and you see it again increasing by 10. So just kind of take this table and multiply by 10, and you have now created what the overall total pips there are required to gain a level. This is something that has not been completely and totally worked out. This is I would almost consider just an advanced alpha testing. We might be tweaking these numbers depending on playtests and words back from the field. We strongly encourage you to contact us at editor@worldofatlas.com if you have thoughts or ideas on how to improve it, and we will entertain those and play test them and incorporate and update the rules as we go into the future. So that's how your skills are going up. That's how you're getting spell points, and that's actually how you're getting ability to affect the environment, but through your skills. Now we're going to talk about magic, which is an important feature of all fantasy role-playing games. And spells cost their spell level to cast unless otherwise noted. Your magic missile costs 1 spell point. Your web costs 2. Your fireball 3, and vice versa, and all following kind of the standard leveling structure that is outlined with the Pathfinder spell lists. But you always get a full access to every spell with your spell points. So if you're a 6 spell point caster and you can cast 3rd level spells, you could cast 2 3rd level spells, you could cast 3 2nd level spells, or you could cast 6 1st level spells, or any combination of that during the course of the day. And spells points replenish at dawn. There's nothing to do with how much rest you get. It is a dawn-based feature. Your rest will affect your fatigue and that kind of status. It is not a determiner of when you get your spell points. That is, you get your spell points once a day, and dawn is the replenishing. And there's some, naturally, on the world of Atlas, there is some divine explanations for why that actually happens in the mythology of that world. Now the cleric, to cast cleric spells, or druid spells, we lump those two together, in your character build you need to spend 10 pips. So if we're doing a 1st level character, you can spend as much as you want on spell point pips, but at a minimum you have to have 10, which would only leave 40 skill points for the other skills, and that will include 1 spell point when you do it. And any additional expenditures will just be an increase in spell points in your pips if you're doing that build. But you're essentially losing 5 pips in training to be a cleric that exist for other characters that you do not have inside your own character builds. When you choose this feature, and decide to buy 10 points worth, you have access to druid and cleric spells. And paladins and rangers are fighters with this ability that have mainly a skill focus, but have they've put a little bit of energy into the spell casting. And paladins naturally lean toward cleric, and rangers toward druid in their spell casting. And will modifier is the base number of spell points before pip advancement. So if you have an 18 will, you have 4 spell points, even if you haven't put anything into the pips for your spells. But we know that you have to get the spell casting ability, which requires 10 pips, and that includes, so you would then have, with an 18 will, you would have 5 spell points starting out. A magic user, it's even more expensive, and your pip cost for a character build of a magic user is 20 pips, which includes 1 spell point. And sorcerers and wizards are virtually the same, except one is charisma based and the other intelligence based. And intelligence or charisma modifier is the base number of spell points before pip and advancement, just like with the cleric. Magic charts. Well, the way you acquire spell points is a little bit different than how you acquire hit points. A pip award happens when you cast a spell of its level. So to get a pip award for level 1, you have to cast a level 1 spell. And then to get a pip award for level 2, you got to cast a level 2 spell. And when you get that award, your how much the award is equal to its level. So I did enough spells at 1st level, and I get to get an additional 1 point. If I do enough spells at 2nd level, I'll get 2 points for that award. 3 points at 3rd level, it matches level 1-to-1 for 1st through 9th level spells. Now, the number of times I have to cast 1st level spells to get an award varies based off level. And so at 1st level, I get 5. I need to cast 5 1st level spells to get a 1st level Pip award, which is 1 spell point. If I cast 7 2nd level spells, I get a level 2 Pip award, and I get 2 spell points. If I cast 9 3rd level spells, now this isn't, I can't make this up by casting a bunch of 1st and 2nd level spells to get my 9. That has to be all 3rd level spells cast for me to get this award of 3 more points. So how do I advance in levels when I'm getting these awards? When do I get to cast, because everything's based off spell points, when do I get to cast the next order of spells? Well, that we follow here. When you've cast 15 total 1st level spells, this is, you cast 3 the first day and 2 the second day and 5 the 3rd day, you get pips. And when you add those pips up, essentially 3 awards worth at every level, then you now can start casting the next higher level spells. So once you've cast 15 1st level spells, you can now cast 2nd level spells. And then, this is a requirement, but you've already met it. So we're now going to worry about how many 2nd level spells do I have to cast before I can cast 3rd level spells. Well, I need to cast 21 2nd level spells before I can start casting 3rd level spells. And this continues up, and this is all based off this kind of number multiplied by 3. So 27 pips worth of level 3 spells, and so on, and so on, and so on, and that's how I get to increase my spells. And you will see stuff when we publish adventures talking about 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th order clerics or mages or sorcerers or druids, and these are basically talking about what spell level you are actually able to cast. That is independent of what your character level is. Character development. Like I've said before, we emphasize the Renaissance man and woman. We want characters to be diverse, explore interesting other areas, add depth to the character. Does this character like to appraise things? Is he a jeweler? Does he have a profession? All these things influence it. And the virtue of this system is that, when you go pursue your knowledge of nature, or you actually improve in your hit points and you become a better character, a tougher character, a more powerful character. And this helps influence those of all of us like to min-max ourselves to death to find out the way that we can affect the world the most that we're adventuring in. But some of that, if you just focus on combat-oriented stuff, you will probably not be ultimately as powerful as the character that can affect the world in more ways than just through weapons. And that is what we find, that is one of the major virtues of the Pip system, is that you get stronger by creating a well-rounded character. Who you are is what you do. That is kind of our operation. If you want to fight all the time, well, you're probably going to get very good with your weapons, but you're not going to be good at your other skills. If you want to do all your other skills all the way, you might not be very good at your weapons, but you are very good at all your other skills. So you get your chance to do whatever you want to do, and it's very flexible. Well, just being kind of frank, character classes suck. We never have liked them, and this goes all the way back to our early days of D&D, and so we role-playing games, and we do not like them and the limitations that they present. That said, a lot of people really do like them, and we want to not be too on our high horse about it, so we want to be flexible enough to allow some level of character class structure to be brought into the discussion. Also, character classes are very easy, and when you just want to just do a quick NPC, you can think about it and go, yeah, this is a 5th level fighter. I don't want to know what he's doing on his off days. He's a 5th level fighter. Just serve it up to me, or and so you can easily make these generic templates based off character classes easy. From my GURPS days, I love the quirks and the advantages. We never really like the disadvantages unless you want to put them in there. You can always bring a fear of spiders or something like that into your play. We encourage that, but we would call that a quirk. And advantages are to be determined. In the past, we've had like hard-headed characters that had an extra 2 points of damage when they did a headbutt, or save 2 damage if they got hit in the head. We used to have hit allocation tables. Those kind of things have gone away. Alright, runes of theories, feats, and character classes. This is something that we're going to probably go into detail in another tutorial. We just want to bring up a little bit of the World of Atlas's mythology and how it's going to affect things. There was, on the World of Atlas, there was a rune people. They were the people of the Grable Empire, existed millennia ago. And they had runes in their blood, and basically like X and Y chromosomes, but those were runes of power. So you could have a war and death runer, or you could have a truth and life runer. And the emperor of that kingdom was Jukal, and he was the master of all the runes. His blood flowed with all of them, and he mastered them. That is going to be an option for people playing in the World of Atlas. As we have moved from the age of chaos into the age of magic, the runes are starting to reappear in the blood of the people on of the world, and so we're going to allow it to be more prevalent and more common than it was in the recent past. And how we're going to do this and accommodate things is we also want feats, but you're going to swap out how many feats you get if you add runes. So you can, and so these are slot choices, and you can do feat slots, or feats rune slot, or rune slot if you wanted to be a double runer, but that means you're not going to get any feats if you do that. And the other thing is that could wind up in that slot is character classes, and we are still working on that. There's going to be a tutorial coming soon for this feature. Right now I would just create tunes for the adventure workbook that were feats, and we will worry about the runes in short order. But to get yourself and your feet wet, just go with feats in terms of your characters. That means you get a feat every level, and so even magic users get a feat every level, so everybody's kind of like a fighter. But as we said, we don't really have character classes, and go with that. Now, elves are very powerful characters. They forego conventional magic. You will not see an elven magic user or an elven cleric, except on very rare occasions. What they have is something called an othery. An othery means power in Elvish, and it means that you are mastering one thing. So there could be a healing theory, there could be a othery, there could be a bowmanship othery, so you master everything about the bow. And we'll get into details on that for elves, and we're going to provide an example of a Sherlock Holmes character who is an elf, and we use an othery for him to accomplish the things that you see Sherlock Holmes do, which was impossible when I tried to play a Sherlock Holmes character in Pathfinder Society. I could not find a character remotely close to what is portrayed in the canon for the fiction of Sherlock Holmes. And we're gonna and then elves are versus the drow. The drow are the elves that do use magic and do use clerical power. They've foregone the original magic of the elves called Otheres, and have seen the potential power of being magic users and clerics, and at some level that has been the source of their evil. And then fairies are a kind of a outside the box character. They do exist, and we're working on exactly how they rule. If you ever read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and how the man with the thistledown hair is treated, he would be a fairy, and we're thinking about how that would work inside of the world of Atlas. Gnomes, if you want to play Rip Van Winkle, then you got it. That's what a gnome is. We do not see gnomes as just another form of halfling, and so their magic is something that we're thinking about, but it's ultimately flexible and would probably be very similar to an Otheri without the same driving force, where elves are kind of looking for mastery and full understanding of something. I think gnomes are probably looking for something more playful than that. And so other races, we're going to have goblins and half-orcs and dwarves, and all those have features, but we're going to talk about all that in another tutorial and not go completely into depth here during this tutorial, which is focusing basically on the mechanics of the leveling as opposed to all the features of the world of Atlas. Game balance. Not our number one goal in life. Do we hate game balance? No. Do we hate game balance for game balance's sake? Yes. And there's a lot of reasons. Elves are immortal, but I've always seen things that don't encompass anything that makes me remotely think that they're immortal if you want to try and do game balance. And so in how we look at it is elves are very, very powerful characters. Scarily powerful, and raise the ire of those that don't live as long. And then also, some runes are just more powerful than others in combat situations. And combat's a fun aspect of role-playing games, and we do a lot of it. Especially, we'll emphasize it often in our adventure paths and modules. And so yes, the death rune is more powerful than the plant rune when it comes to being in combat. Well, if you want to be a death runer and affect combat, be a death runer and affect combat more. It is fine with us. We don't want to limit that. And usually the heroes in novels, sometimes they're not, but most of the time they're really the kick-ass fighters and or the kick-ass mages, and we don't pay attention to the ones that aren't so good. Then as we said, the system is in perpetual beta. Nerf bats will be unlikely. We're not going to probably clip the wings of characters, but realism bats will. If we start seeing stuff that's, hey, I can do this because of the rules, but it makes no sense, then we're going to try and figure out how to limit that. We're about realism and the play. Some friends, when I've GM'd before, have said, hey, man, we're in a fantasy world. Why are you so worried about the realism? I'm like, yeah, I know, but, if the sky was all, if you just couldn't realize it the minute you walked out the door, then all of a sudden, reverse gravity hit, and nothing behaved any rules of the world. You couldn't even adventure in it. You gotta have it tethered to a sense of reality, otherwise it's just not going to be any fun. So it's basically a fun decision. So realism brings in fun. And we love fun at World of Atlas. And then PvP, we're working on it. We're thinking about it. We've never been huge PvP guys, not even in computer games, but it could be really fun. I think something we're more interested in doing, and probably would show up first, is when we release an adventure, see if somebody could be the first one to finish it in the adventure work path, like a really dangerous one, like Tomb of Horrors was back in its day with the original role-playing game, and see who can get through it first using some kind of screen recording thing to prove that they haven't cheated. So that's something we're thinking about that could be fun, that comes down the line, which would be kind of a competitive style to the things we're trying to do here. Well, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you try out the Pip system. I hope you start running your home games in the Pip system. I hope you use the adventure workbook. Why? I have a very selfish motive. I want to play in more Pip system games, and right now, as we launched World of Atlas, if Bailey's not running and or Jim's not running using the Pip system, then it's not going to be that. I'm not going to get to play in it. So we want to bring this to the world and let other people do this, improve it, write adventures, talk about it, and hopefully everybody starts playing with the Pip system through time.